The state of indie filmmaking is not great right now. It seems like we have less and less good options for distribution by the day now. There were two really good options for a long time where a no-budget filmmaker like myself could get their movie out into the world for little to no money. That still rings true to this day in some aspects, but there's a lot more caveats to that now. I'm talking about Amazon Prime and Filmhub. I'm going to be going over what these are, major changes that have recently come, a walkthrough of uploading to Filmhub, and my opinion on if you should be uploading your film to Filmhub. Now, while I did mention Amazon, this video is primarily going to focus on Filmhub itself. I personally uploaded my own indie film onto both of these platforms, and I've helped a couple filmmakers upload their films to there as well. Both have undergone a lot of changes over the last couple of months. Again, I'm mainly going to be focusing on Filmhub, but we need to talk about these before we get into the weeds. First, what is Filmhub? Filmhub is kind of an aggregator, although it's really not, but they essentially act as the middleman between you and the film's platforms. So think Netflix, Hulu, Vudu, all those different places. Basically, you can upload your film to Filmhub, and then they will pitch your film to these different platforms. What's been great about Filmhub is it's always been free for filmmakers, whereas other aggregators will charge hundreds to even thousands of dollars for the same process. However, while Filmhub is free, it's not completely free. Filmhub will pay you every single month, but they do take a cut. 80% will go to you, the filmmaker, and the other 20% will go to Filmhub for these services. That's been a pretty fair deal, in my opinion, just because there's been no upfront cost to upload to the platform, and they get you on major platforms. Amazon Prime Video Direct basically works the same way, but they aren't an aggregator. It's just you and them. You upload directly to the platform. They take a 50-50 cut as opposed to Filmhub's 80-20 cut. So if you sell your movie for $10 on Amazon, you will make $5 of that, and the other $5 will go to Amazon. Or in the same scenario, if you sell your film on Filmhub for $10, $8 of that will go to you, and $2 of that will go to them. You can also distribute your film on Amazon through Filmhub, but the math there gets a little bit more wonky, because you're technically in a 50-50 split with Amazon. So 50% of your earnings will go to you and the other 50% will go to Amazon. But then that's split up again with the 80-20 split between you and Filmhub. I'm not here to get into all the weird financials, but it is important for what I'm about to tell you next. There have been some major changes to Filmhub in the last 6 months or so. It may be for the betterment of the platform, but it's extremely debatable for filmmakers. Back in 2020, I completed and released my first feature film. I wasn't looking to go the traditional distribution route, so that led me to looking at self-distribution options. I knew you could upload to Amazon yourself, so I decided to start there. It was a pretty simple process, but after a few months, I decided to start looking at Filmhub. I heard about Filmhub through Alex Ferrari's Indie Film Hustle podcast. He had the CEO of Filmhub on at the time, and I was pretty hooked after listening to that conversation. A place where I could upload my film, retain the rights, and make money? Consider me sold. I got my film on a ton of major platforms like Tubi, Apple TV, Vudu. Honestly, getting on Tubi was enough for me because I knew that was a platform where I could do pretty well. And the following years, I continued to sing the praises of Filmhub. I made a tutorial like this, and it seemed like most of you had the same feelings as I did about the platform. Then the end of 2023 kind of rolled around. I had a few people who saw my initial walkthrough video, and they asked for my assistance on getting their films on these platforms. And of course, because I'd kept up with Filmhub and Amazon and all that, I felt like I was knowledgeable enough to where I'd be able to do that as a service. So I promised I could get their films on Amazon and Filmhub without any issues. And then to my surprise, I immediately started having issues. I'm going to call these changes sneaky because I saw absolutely no notifications about them when they first started popping up. The earliest notification I got was this email from back in January, but the changes started back in Q4 of 2023. One of the biggest changes that I noticed is that you can't technically put your film onto platforms that they currently offer asterisks. For example, they offer distribution to Amazon, so you can't upload to Amazon yourself now without paying a fee. I learned about this when I was uploading one of my clients' films to Filmhub. I noticed there wasn't an option for me to block Amazon from their Filmhub account. We had uploaded the film and it was live on Amazon already when I did this, so I emailed Filmhub asking them to block the channel, And this was the response that I got in return. Basically, Filmhub is no longer offering blocking channels as part of their free program because they're looking for more ways to make money. Fair, but I wish they had given us a little bit more heads up before I did all that work on Amazon. The second major change that I noticed is that when I went to go change some poster art for one of these clients, that they wanted money to do that. This was initially a free service, but now Filmhub is charging to make any sort of changes after your film has been delivered. Okay, so I thought to myself, this was free to me in the past, so what else are they charging for? To start, they have a few different subscriptions based on your needs. The plan is still technically free, but they have two upgraded plans. They have Plus, which is right here, which basically gives you the ability to block channels like Amazon that I had mentioned earlier, having a custom studio name, etc. And this is a $99 a month fee. And Pro, which gives you a few other options that are listed on the screen here. I'm going to mention this as well, but they doubled the price of this Plus plan in the last month or so because it was $50 back in December. So they're making even more shady changes faster and faster. I'll also put a link in the description of all of their paid services they offer right now. This won't affect most of you looking to do the basics, but some veterans like myself are going to notice all these small things that they didn't have to pay for before that they do now. So they charge for things like $99 for title redelivery, release dates, the channel blocking that I had mentioned before, taking your film off of Filmhub. I will say there are a lot of positive changes on here because they do offer a lot of services to assist filmmakers in creating assets such as closed captions, chapter markers, poster art, and other things I'm constantly seeing filmmakers struggle with. But I will say it's a lot all at once, or at least it feels that way. So I understand because I do want to see Filmhub succeed long term and they do need to make money in order to do so, but it's frustrating to have basic items that I've had before given a price tag that were once free. It's a tough situation. I am going to be giving my full thoughts on if you should still be uploading to Filmhub later in the video, but I did want to give an updated tutorial on how to upload to Filmhub for those who are looking to do so. So I'm going to be talking about the deliverables that you're going to need, a step-by-step guide on how to upload to Filmhub, and then I'll talk about some common problems that I see a lot in my comment section. So let's talk about the homepage. So this is what you're going to see when you sign into Filmhub right away. So you got your titles right here, you got your list of menu items right here, and then you have all of your different platforms that have been either pitched to, you're licensed on, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go over this really quick. So we have, let's just say the last platform that I was pitched to was on February 14th, 2024 for Future Today, and they accepted my short film Adopt. It was licensed. So if you do get picked up by a platform, it's going to say licensed. This was worded a little bit different back in the day, but now it says licensed. Now, that doesn't mean that your film is up and live. That's something that you're going to just have to constantly check on, which is a little annoying. Reason being, I don't think Filmhub knows when your film actually goes live because I don't think the platforms tell them. So unfortunately, that's just something you're going to have to keep checking back and forth for. And then you have your list of films here, which I have 3 right now. I have my Cashing Out 2, which is what I used the last time I did my tutorial and what I'm going to use today as well. And then I have Cashing Out, and then I have Adopt. So Filmhub has this nifty kind of help guide that you can kind of follow. So I'm just going to be following this as, just how I'm going to be doing everything. So they have how to submit your title for distribution. So we're just going to follow this step by step. So let's go into add a new movie. When you want to go add a movie, you'll go to add right here and then select add a movie or show. I don't know too much about adding series, so I'm just going to do a film in this one, but the steps should be about the same. You're just going to be uploading a lot more content, obviously. So I'm going to select Cashing Out 2 here, so I don't have to make another title. And then this is what your main page is going to look like. This is going to look a little different right when you start a new title, but this is what it'll look like afterwards. So I'm just going to hit edit. And then right here, you're met with the upload page. So you got your main upload, which is going to be your movie. You have your closed captions. You can add chapter markers, and then you have your trailer. Now let's talk about the deliverables really quick. So you're going to need a bunch of different assets before you get started with Filmhub. They actually have a video and audio requirements guide right here. So I'm just going to talk about this really quick and kind of my suggestions from here. But for your video file, they recommend an Apple ProRes 422 or 422 HQ, an Avid DNX HR SQ and up, or this version of an Avid DNX HD. They do say they could potentially take H.264 files, MPEG 2, and then DV files, but I'm going to tell you right now from experience, right now, your best method is one of these. I personally do the Apple ProRes 422. That's the highest quality file that I'm able to do. I don't do the Avid files. So if you're like me, like I edit on Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve, I'm doing the Apple ProRes. That even if you take your H.264 file and convert that to an Apple ProRes, it's going to work out for you better in the long term. But I would really recommend doing a master file in Apple ProRes 422. And then we have what's going on inside of the actual video. So they suggest, well, it's actually a requirement because they made me fix this on my film too, but you can have no more than 2 seconds of black at the beginning and the end of your film. So you can have 2 seconds of black and then the movie needs to start right away. That's not saying the movie itself needs to start, but if say you have like your company logo or something or whatever starts at the beginning, needs to start right at 2 seconds. It can't be 5 seconds of black or anything like that. It needs to be 2 seconds. And then they say no color bars, slate, yada, yada. Make sure all that's out. The video must start and end on at least one black frame. No burned in subtitles throughout. Partial burned in subtitles are acceptable for mixed language or inaudible dialogue. And then they have some requirements. It's not interlaced, no blended frames or ghosting, no padding, no watermarking, no URLs or promos. I'm not going to get into all of these, but just read these if you are confused about anything. If you're making a normal 16:9 or scope movie or anything like that, you're probably not going to have too many issues. Just make sure you have the 2 seconds of black at the front and the tail of the film. Then they have some minimal resolution requirements, frame rate requirements, chapters, which I'll talk about here in a second. You have your different audio requirements, how it should be laid out. I didn't get too crazy in this. I just did a simple stereo Apple ProRes 422 export, and I was fine. So as long as you're keeping it simple like that, you're going to be okay. Hey guys, just pausing here really quick. One quick update that I forgot to mention as far as the deliverables, but you're going to want to, or at least it's recommended that you're going to want to export your film file in its original aspect ratio. So if you did a 16:9 film, that'll obviously be like a 1080 file, for example, like a 1920 by 1080, or whatever the resolution size is for 4K. But for me personally, I did mine in the scope format, so the resolution is going to be a little different there. So you're going to want to upload your film and your trailer in its original aspect ratio. So if you did scope like I did, you're not going to want the black bars at the top and the bottom of the film like you would technically see on, if you're streaming a movie or something like that and they're playing it in the original aspect ratio. You're going to want to export it in its original aspect ratio. I ended up talking about this later, but I wanted to mention it now just in case you don't watch this full tutorial. So that's pretty much it for the main video. So then we have the caption file. So for your captions, you're going to want a .srt file, and you're going to want to get this made. In the past, I said that you could probably get away with doing this yourself, but honestly, I've had a lot of people complain to me that they've done this and it didn't work and Filmhub didn't accept it. You're going to want to get it professionally made. In the past, I have uploaded my films to rev.com to get the captions made. I am an affiliate with them, and I'll have a link in my description if that's something you want to use. I'm not requiring it, and I'm only recommending Rev because I continuously use them for the past 5 years or so, and they've been consistently reliable, and it's never failed a QC test. So I can say with confidence that they do a nice job. And then I need to drop a file in here, but you would essentially, I think it's called SDH. They'll give you some options once you actually upload the file. You're going to select the SDH, which is something about the hard of hearing and all that. That's the file format you're going to want to pick. Then with the trailer, just upload a 19 by 20 Apple ProRes 422 or 422 HQ file, and you'll be good to go. Make it stereo. Don't overcomplicate it. Something really important here is with the chapter breaks. This is one of my biggest tips I tell people is to add chapter breaks to your film. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you are watching a movie on TV like us old people did back in the day, you would have advertisements every 15 minutes or so. You're going to want to do the same thing here with your chapter breaks. So you're going to want to create a chapter break every, I can't remember the exact requirements, and I'll link here somewhere in the corner. I did a video on this on how to actually create these chapter breaks, so I will include that up in the corner here on how to create these. But you're going to want to create these, otherwise you're not going to be able to get on advertising video on demand platforms like Tubi or Vudu or any of them, because Filmhub is not going to put these in for you. They'll charge you and they'll do it. But honestly, this is so simple and free to do. You should be doing it yourself. And I've done this for multiple films now. I've gotten on Tubi for some of my clients. It works. So just watch that tutorial. You'll be able to do this. I think it's like your first chapter has to come after the first 8 minutes, I think. And then you can only have one every 5 minutes or so after that. Just make a general rule of thumb. Every 10 minutes or so, you should have some sort of chapter break. So that way you can get your film on AVOD platforms. Okay, so that is the first section here. So we're going to move on to profile. Okay, so starting in the profile page, you got your name and then you got the red asterisks here, which means that you're going to have to enter in the title or just whatever information that they're looking for. As far as the title, they say enter the name of your title in English, use title case, only enter the actual names of your title. The name must match the title in your video files for English titles or the name in the English text track for non-English titles. Don't use all caps and don't use additional information such as the series or award-winning film. They just want the straight title. For your synopsis, you're going to want to keep it short and sweet. I think this is like a 250 character limit or something like that, but you're going to want to write a brief plot summary in English of your movie or your show. It is a maximum of 255 characters. So basically you're just going to want to enter your log line. They say use standard sentence case. Don't use all caps. And they say no grammar mistakes. And they recommend using Grammarly if you're following along here with the help document here. If you need to spell check anything, I use ChatGPT a lot to do that for me. So that is another option you can use too. And then optionally, you can enter in your sales pitch. And I'm going to say optionally, but honestly, there's a lot of things on here you're going to want to enter in just because it's going to help sell your film better. So just think of it this way. If you're missing this information, you got less chances to get on the platforms that you're going to want to get on. So make sure you're taking this seriously and trying to enter in as much of this metadata as you possibly can. So for the sales pitch, you have 300 characters. So focus on the elements of your film that are going to make it stand out the most. So there could be, the uniqueness of it, or, if there's just something cool about your film, like whatever you want, if you want to stand out, make a good sales pitch. I don't have any personal, let's go back here for a second and let's take a look at what I did for my film Cashing Out. Maybe better at this point for me to just show you what I've done. So for my sales pitch, I said, Cashing Out flips the gambling subgenre on its side, focusing on how a serious poker player turns against fellow gamblers to rob them of their cash. The Utah Film Festival and Awards called Cashing Out smartly done and offers a new and fresh concept of a crime drama film. So that's what I thought, I guess, was good enough for a sales pitch, but go ahead and do your own version of this and what makes the most sense to you. All right, so going back, now that you got your synopsis done and your sales pitch, you're going to want to pick a genre. I think you can only pick one genre, so pick the one that makes the most sense, and you're not going to just be able to pick any willy-nilly genre. You're going to have to pick something that's on here, so pick the thing that is the closest match to what they offer here. And then if you want to enter in any sort of keywords, so they have a whole bunch of keywords, obviously this will help sell your film a little bit better. So like for instance, with Cashing Out, I did poker. So that's not an option. Let's just say crime, not an option. So just go through, pick what makes the most sense. If you don't have anything there. It's not the end of the world. It's just optional. You're going to want to enter your original release date. So you're going to probably want to release it, or at least pick a release date that makes the most sense to you. Pick your countries of production. So whatever, I would just pick one main country. Filming locations, I wouldn't worry about too much, but you could enter that if you want. This is grayed out for me right now just because I don't have anything uploaded, but you're going to want to pick the main language of your film files. So your main film file will be this one, and then your trailer audio. So for me, for instance, it would be English. So that's what I would pick for both of those. And then you got your cast and crew. So for here, I would just pick your top billed cast. So take your 5 most highest actors if you want. I probably had 7 of them, maybe. Let's go back. I'm going to go back to my film and see what I did. So you can see the cast here on the side. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people on the cast. And then I just put myself on the crew because I think they only allow director, producer, and writer, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to go back into here and see what they actually let us do. So yeah, the writers, the composer, if you want. I didn't have a composer on my movie, so I left that blank. The producers and the director, that's all you can have. So once you get past this point, you're pretty much done there and you can move on to listing. So for the listing page, you're going to be giving your film a rating. You're going to give it some discoverability stuff and some catalog stuff. So for the instance with the rating, select any applicable advisory warnings for your film. If there are no advisory warnings on your title, just select all audiences. This field is required and highly recommended to be accurate, especially when your title has not been officially rated. So you don't need to get officially rated. And this is all what I just read is according to Filmhub. So you don't have to officially rate it, but like, if you got naughty words in your movie, go ahead and select language. If you got drug use, violence, et cetera, make sure you just select what makes the most sense. Or if you have an official rating, go ahead and pick that. But, if you have none of those things, select all audiences, but make sure you pick something and what most accurately represents your film. For the tags, I guess tags are required. Let's see what Filmhub says about here. Tags are free-form word keywords that help describe your movie or show. Channel buyers and Filmhub sales team actively use tags to search for titles in our catalog, and having good tags significantly improves the chance of your film getting licensed. So they recommend at least 2 tags, where you have to have at least 2 tags, but they recommend at least having 20. And they have some best practices, but just think about what keywords you would use. So for example, like I said, I have a crime movie. So we have crime, we have poker, just anything that would make your movie a little bit more searchable, add it in here, and it's just going to help you with discoverability a lot more. And then if you have any festivals, you can add a bunch of festivals you were accepted in, or if you want an award, you can add those in here. If you have a website for your film, obviously that's good. And then down here, you can add your IMDb title. I would recommend doing that. Just helps with the search a little bit more. If you have MDB, that's good too. I haven't done vendor title. This doesn't really apply to me, but if that does apply to you, that's where you would enter that in. I didn't do that personally, so I'm not going to worry about that. Let's see if they have anything to say about that. You own the internal ID of the title, usually used by catalog owners to find and track their titles. So unless you're uploading a ton of different titles, doesn't really apply to you here. For the production company, go ahead and add your production company. I have been asked in the past, I don't have an official production company. What am I supposed to do? Just make one up. Do your best here. It's unlikely anybody's this is not legal advice. I'm just going to cover my butt here, but I didn't have an official production company when I started with Filmhub. I just entered my company, if you will, and that was fine. Just make something up and I'm sure you'll be fine. Then if you can add a copyright line here. So for example, my company, AWS Films, I could have entered copyright or 2024 AWS Films. For the public domain, check this box only if your title is in the public domain, which more than likely it is not. So just leave that blank, ignore it. And then they have a notes section. Let's see what they say about notes. Miscellaneous information not covered in the other fields you think we should have, especially if it pertains to QC, such as this title has an unusual aspect ratio or separate closed captions provided for inaudible section. So that's where you would enter in that information. Otherwise, you can leave it blank. But from there, let's go ahead and move on. So now we have the artwork, which is probably one of the more stressful parts for a lot of the people who I've talked to who don't really understand. So I'm going to link to all the resolutions and all that for the different artwork. And I actually have a little filmmaker indie distribution guide or kind of kit thing. I forgot exactly how I worded it, so I apologize. But I have all the different sizes and stuff included in that as samples of what I've done. So you can just take those and then use that as kind of your sizing guide, and I'll link in the description to all the different sizes that they require. They only require the 2x3, a 3x4, and a 16x9, but honestly, I would recommend doing all of these just because it helps with your discoverability a little bit. And some of these platforms are really wonky about their artwork sizes, and you don't want to, handicap yourself by not doing something that's just so simple. And there's actually some guides to creating artwork good, and I actually did a video about this too, so I'm going to go ahead and link that somewhere up here in the video. So if you're looking for more guidance here, I would absolutely recommend watching that and hearing what I have to say about that, because it will save you a lot of headaches. I don't want to go through all of that right now just because it's kind of long and I'm trying to condense this as much as possible, especially with how long it is. But if you're confused about how to do the artwork here, you're going to want to watch that. But just know that you're going to have your main image, and you can really only have a title. I think you can have the actors' names, and that's it. You can't have taglines or festival laurels or nothing like that. Honestly, I would just have and I'll pop up I'll just show you right now. So look at mine. So I literally just have the background image here and the title. That's all I had. They literally wanted that clean. I could have put maybe my top 3 actors up here, but I left it out just so I had an easier time passing QC. And I think I can show you. So yeah, you can see all my artwork here. Basically the same image in different sizes, and it's all clean. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your artwork. All right, so we're going to move on to the next section, which is Avails, which is basically where you're going to decide or tell Filmhub how you want your film distributed. So say you're not somebody like me who's doing everything and you have investors, or you're working with somebody else, or you only have specific rights to certain territories or different types of licenses. This is where you're going to be able to enter in that information. So for an example, if you are like me and you're just doing everything through Filmhub, you want to keep everything worldwide, ad-supported, subscription, transactional, etc. But I can start messing with these, and if I only want it in certain countries, I can go ahead and do that. If I want to do everywhere except for these countries, I can do that. I can pick just specific territories like North America, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, etc. This is where you're going to be able to do that. Not going to get heavily into here, but this is where this tutorial is mostly for people who are trying to just keep it simple. So I would just keep it worldwide, keep all the licenses available. Not really going to have to do much here. And if you were able to block channels like Amazon, like I was talking about before, if you have the right plan for this, this is where you would do that. But I can't do that here, obviously, because I don't pay for the upgraded subscription to Filmhub. And then lastly, we have the documents. Now, this is optional, but I tell people try to do as much as you can here. And if you can't do anything here, don't freak out. So they list some documents you might want to add, such as your EPK, which is your electronic press kit. That's something you can do, and that's something I include in that little indie film distribution checklist that I mentioned that's in the description. I included my electronic press kit. If you want to see what one looks like, that's the one I literally uploaded to here. You can upload a pitch deck if that's something that you have. If you have E&O insurance, if you have cast and crew bios, they say store clearances or legal or other marketing material. This is just where you're going to upload it. You don't have to have all of this. I just highly recommend it if you do have it. So for an example, I had my electronic press kit. I did a music cue sheet, which music cue sheets are another thing that people ask me a lot about. Here's another video tutorial on how I did mine if you're looking to do that. So you got that. I think I had some, what do you call it? Not licenses, but releases for all my cast and crew. I included in there. I had all my music licenses and stuff like that. That's where you're going to want to upload that. I helped a filmmaker and they didn't have any of these documents and they got on Tubi and Amazon and all that, no problem. So it's nothing to freak out over if you don't have it, but if you do have it or you can make it, I just highly recommend doing it. So once you get to this point, that's pretty much it. And if you're missing anything, like once we get into here, let's talk about the what's missing first. So if you're missing anything, it's going to tell you right here. It's going to give you a little checklist that you're going to have to go over. Just make sure you are, correcting all this. And if you have any questions about anything, leave me a comment or email me. My email's in my bio. Happy to help you as best as I can, but you're going to want to get this fixed before they'll let you submit. And then you're actually able to check your film before you actually submit to. So I'm able to watch my film, get it checked. So you can say I got it in the original aspect ratio right here. So it's not just in 16:9. They'll add the black bars or put it in 16:9 or anything like that. They're going to do that right there. And then I'm able to check like the closed captions. So we got the English closed captions. So let's skip to a part. So right here, we got the closed captions. Those are good to go. You can check your trailer, which that looks like I put it in not 16:9, but I've done 16:9 uploads and they've taken them too for the trailers. So not a big deal, but you're going to want to, upload this in its original aspect ratio if you can, but you check those. And then once you're done, you'll be able to hit the submit button. So submit right here once all this is cleared and you've done everything you possibly can. And make sure, especially now, this is a lot different than my last tutorial. Make sure you have everything you want in here before you hit submit. Because after you hit submit and they accept your film, it's going to cost you money to change anything. I think it's like $150 to change, somewhere between $100 and $150 to make any changes to your listing here. So make damn sure that you have everything spelled right, do everything right before you hit submit. And that's pretty much it. So once your film is done, it may take a couple weeks. I've seen films get accepted as early as a week. At least the last couple films that I helped with my clients, their films got up in a week. And once it's done, it will say active. If it needs something fixed, they'll email you and they'll let you know right here if something needs fixed. But once it's done, it's ready to get pitched. It's going to show up as active right here. Now, how does Filmhub's pitching process work? I don't know exactly, but your film is going to get pitched. Let's see here. Let's look and see how often or how many platforms it gets. So we got February, which was last month. It's March right now. Then we had January. We have another January. We have December. So on average, they do like 1 or 2 platforms a month, give or take. And they're constantly doing it. Sometimes I'll go a few months without seeing anything, but I'm just saying on average, you can expect to see a new platform up once a month. Now, they're not going to communicate with you on which platforms you're going to get on, which platforms they're pitching to, et cetera, et cetera. Every once in a while, they'll email you and they'll say, hey, if you do XYZ, we can get you on this platform, whatever. But that's as far as the communication goes. You're pretty much putting everything else in Filmhub's hands from here. There's really no control, which is one of the downfalls, but that's just kind of how it works when, they're essentially doing everything for free for the most part, besides taking that 20%. Now let's get into some of the other aspects or at least some of the other pages we got here. So let's check out our performance. So this is where you're going to see the breakdown of how much money, which I guess I'm kind of exposing myself a little bit here in the last 12 months. So you can see on Tubi, I've made $3,300. It's a little bit more than that because it's only looking at the last 12 months. But you can see here, so you got your gray here is your estimated earnings, and then your green here is your verified earnings. So you can see here that they're behind a couple of months. So they do pay out every month, but they're not going to pay you. So like, for example, this November number I got here, I just got paid that, I think, at the end of February. So it looks like they're about 4 months behind, give or take 3 months behind. So you're going to have to wait a few months before you start seeing anything if you do start getting paid right away. But this is where it's going to show up. And then you can look at the different platforms. You can see all the platforms I'm making money on. As you can see, they're not making much except for Tubi. So that just kind of is what it is. And then you have some different features here, obviously. So it'll break it down. That way you can change the dates, etc., etc. As far as your statements, this is where you're going to see like the different platforms and when they pay and all that. So this is where you're going to see those numbers. And you also see your transfers. Not really much to get into here, so I'm not going to dive much further into it than that. You got your schedule, which if there is something for you to be paid on Filmhub, this is where it's going to show up. So you can hit start verification, and this is where it's going to show you your earnings and all that. And then you just hit I certify, and then I would click this, and then they would say, okay, well, we're going to push this through for you to get paid. And then schedule, they have the different platforms and when they pay out. I don't pay too much attention to this, but this is where that information is if you want to see it. And then I'm not going to show you this, but obviously I don't know how this works for outside of the United States. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that information, but you're going to want to set up, when you set up a portfolio and all this, which I kind of skipped over that, but when you go to Filmhub, you're going to hit get started, and then you're going to create an account, all that. Obviously I have an account, so it's not going to do that for me here, but you're going to want to set up your taxes and all that. You can set it up as an individual, or if you have an LLC like me, that's where you're going to set it up. So that way, they're not going to withhold taxes unless they have to, but you're going to want to set up that information in case they need to send you a 1099 or anything like that. Yeah, real quick update too, something I forgot to mention in this tutorial, but Filmhub does pay through PayPal. So you're going to have to set up a PayPal account in order to get paid. Now that means you're probably not going to get a 1099, so I'm not necessarily sure why they have you fill out the W-9 portion if you're in the United States, just because they're going through PayPal, so they don't really require to send you one, I guess just in case. But you will need to set up a PayPal account in order to get paid from Filmhub. Unfortunately, there's no way around this. You can't do direct deposit or Venmo or any other service like that. They only pay through PayPal. So if you want to get paid from Filmhub, you need to set up a PayPal account. And then they have this channels right here. It just shows all the different channels that they offer. So this is not a guarantee on which channels that they're going to pitch your project to, but this is the different channels that they currently have a relationship with right now. And of course, if you need help with anything, they have the little help desk here, help center, and you're able to look up any of the things that I've been talking about or discussing. So let's talk about some of the common problems I see people having when uploading their films. So a big one I see is they get some sort of low quality error on their film. That usually means that you're not uploading in the right format, such as the ProRes 422 or 422 HQ that I had talked about. They're uploading some very low quality, maybe H.264 file or MPEG file or something like that, and it's causing some nasty compression. You need to upload your film in the highest quality possible, otherwise it's going to get rejected. Closed caption issues. So like I said, I really recommend getting this done professionally. I no longer recommend doing it yourself just because spelling errors and people don't format things correctly. And quite frankly, like I don't even know all of the rules and all that for closed captioning. So it's not quite the same as subtitling. Closed captions are for the hard of hearing. So there's different rules and regulations for that. So it's not quite as just subtitling your movie. There's also if there's sounds that are important to the movie or anything like that, those are, I'm sure you've seen closed captions in films before where you'll see those in the little brackets. I'll even pop that up on the screen here, what that looks like. I don't know all the rules and regulations for that. So I just recommend getting that professionally done. There's a ton of different services. I use rev.com. Again, I have an affiliate link in the description. You don't need to use that. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just really like what they do. I've been using it for over 5 years now, and I've never had any QC issues with them. So I can wholeheartedly recommend their services to all of you. Poster art issues. I had talked about this before, but make sure your posters are clean. Again, I have a video right here on how to fix that and just format your poster art correctly. So I would definitely recommend watching that carefully after this video, of course, but definitely take that seriously. Otherwise you're going to get rejected. And then just missing metadata. So make sure you're checking, make sure everything is spelled properly. Make sure you're doing all the stuff that's red, has the red asterisks on it. Make sure you're just putting in as much information that you possibly can into your film So that way it can get out to as many people as possible through these platforms. Because if you're missing stuff, you could be increasing your risk of not being able to get on a lot of different platforms that may require that sort of stuff. And let's get into probably what you're curious about the most, especially with these new changes. Do I still think that people should be uploading to Filmhub? The long and short of it is yes, I think you should be uploading, but I'm going to put a big asterisk on that. I mentioned before at the beginning of this video that our options for distribution as indie filmmakers is being limited more by each day. I'm going to say this loud and clear. I do not think that there is a perfect platform for distributing films right now. In my opinion, Filmhub is the best option if you're looking to do all of your film distribution through their platform. You do have other options such as uploading to Prime Video Direct, using a distributor that's like Filmhub, kind of like Indie Rights, which I haven't personally used and I can't comment on, using an aggregator like Quiver, again, another platform I haven't used, starting your own OTT channel, finding traditional distribution, or even just uploading to YouTube. Each of these options have their own pros and cons. Uploading to Amazon means you're out in the Amazon marketplace, but you're not on the Prime subscription and they're taking a massive cut. Indie Rights is pretty close to Filmhub, but they require a 3-year contract and there's really no guarantee that they'll accept your film. YouTube isn't a great place for uploading films, and you honestly need a pretty large following before doing anything like that. Starting your own OTT channel kind of has the same problems with YouTube, and you could be driving traffic away from a bigger platform like Amazon or Tubi or something like that. It seems like every small traditional distributor these days is awful to work with, so I can't even recommend that even a little bit. And Quiver is a bit expensive to upload to, but it could be a better option if you do have the cash up front. So I say Filmhub is the best option because it's going to give you the widest range for essentially no money. This was the perfect option for me as a no-budget filmmaker, and I still feel that rings true today. Now, I'm saying all this at the time that I'm recording and posting. Everything could get worse from here because it seems like everything is getting worse for filmmakers instead of better. I'd said in one of my last videos about Filmhub that these places are the gatekeepers and we have to adhere to their rules. There's never been and likely never will be a perfect option for distribution for indie filmmakers. You have to decide on your goals and what's most important to you, and then make a decision on what route to take. For me personally, I wanted to retain my rights and get on as many platforms as possible. Filmhub has helped me do that, so I'm going to continue to use them. There certainly could be a better option in the future, and I'm always going to be on the lookout for that. And I'd love to hear from all of you. Have you heard of better options? What's worked for you in the past? I'm in the process of interviewing filmmakers, so I want to hear from you so I can share the best information possible. Let me know down in the comments, have you used something like Indie Rights or Quiver or gone the traditional distribution route? Like I want to know what your experience is like so I can share that. However, if you do want to continue using Filmhub, here's another video you should check out for some common questions that I get asked here about the platform. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.